Yo, I ramble so much, it's ridiculous. I know that's basically how I've done most of these videos in the past. And like, I never know where the conversation's gonna go. So I just kind of go with it. And it has been important for my whole process. I know this, um, mainly because before I was afraid to like do anything like this. You know, I hated being on camera, period. um, and that's like a forever thing. Like when I was, I think 5, I would do these workout videos with my mom. And, you know, Richard Simmons, Sweating to the Oldies. And it's because it was dancing. I loved dancing, so I got into it. So we would be in there doing these workout videos, and my dad would show up with a video camera somewhere along the line, and every single time it's like, nope, clam up, can't do it, stop, shut down. And a big part of me doing this YouTube thing is to give myself the chance to embrace other parts of myself and who I want to be. I have to have the space to grow into these like potential things, right? So that was part of why I started this whole thing, and it has proven to be a almost like talk therapy for me in a lot of ways. Even though I'm just talking to the camera and not talking to anybody in particular, it has freed up a lot of space for me, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all that fun stuff, and has very much served its purpose. So that's an important thing. But I think I'm also trying to be worked on just for this dialing it in and getting to the point quicker. You know, I started another video and it was just like 15 minutes straight rambling. You know, I went from one thing and completely just flew off into like whatever other stupid shit. And it wasn't helpful. And I finally just shut it off. It's like, what am I even talking about? I don't know. So, where I started and what I wanted to kind of talk about was I've been like getting these nudges that it's time to start getting more knowledge and like focusing in on some kind of path that I'm meant to be on, whatever that looks like. I don't know fully what that looks like, I'll admit. But this, so I have my my daily, it's a daily tarot journal, but I use it with my oracle cards most of the time, tarot sometimes, usually more for like the month ahead readings and stuff like that. Anyway, this Melchizedek card right here from the Divine Master's Oracle has been following me around a lot, and it's kind of been annoying me, to be honest. You know, the card says divine knowledge, higher learning, commit to your vision through study. I know what that looks like. I still don't know what that looks like. Guidebook says you are being encouraged to dive into spiritual study. Don't skim the surface, go deeper, for there's important information out there that will support you in taking your path and skills to the next level. There's a good chance that you may want to get out there with what you know, but the universe wants you to study a little more before taking a leap into the unknown. When you study, you demonstrate how committed you are to the spiritual path. And when you are committed, the universe will present you with opportunities that will take you further along the path and toward a feeling of fulfillment and purpose. If you're intending to work in a particular field, ask yourself if there's anything you need to read up on or study first. If so, or if something springs to mind, take note, as this is your next step. So, this card has been coming up a lot. But it's not just that. Like, I've gotten other messages, like through readings I've watched online, or conversations I've had with people, or just, you know, I'll be reading something and something will stand out. It's like, oh, hey, do that. It's like, oh, okay. But I don't know what I'm doing with it, right? You know, and my background is kind of all over the place too. And, you know, okay, this part I can see as relevant, so I'll go ahead and continue there. Okay, when I was in high school, my senior year, I enjoyed a psychology class that I had, like, the one teacher, I just loved him. And, there were some other little things or other classes that I kind of liked. So when it was time to look at college, of course, college was not an option for me because my mom had gotten married. She actually got married a month before she graduated high school. So, then the next year she had my brother, and a couple years after that she had me. So, I always heard that it was her biggest regret that she hadn't gone to college, and so it wasn't really an option for me. I had to do it. Well, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know anything about who I was or where I fit in life, so it's like, okay, I guess I'll figure it out there. So I went to Ball State, and I started with that direction because I talked to a career counselor who said I should be working with kids, teaching kids, specifically little kids. So naturally, elementary education, well, that was a Ball State thing, at least at that time. I don't know what they're known for now, but that was the big thing back then. So I think we were on our way to move me into the dorm, and on the way, I just kind of blurted out, it's like, I don't want to teach, what am I doing? So I had spent several months thinking I was going to Ball State to pursue elementary education. Then I don't even get there. It's like, I don't want to do that. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, since I really didn't know anything about who I was at that point in time, like, I had these little things that would pop up along the way. It's like, oh, I think that, but, and I've talked a lot on here about how I've always had that voice telling me to use my voice, speak my truth, and it's like, I didn't know what that was. And it was really frustrating because I kept having this voice repeat these things in my head, and I didn't know how to do that because I didn't know who I was. And besides that, there was that whole thing with being terrified of using my voice as well, which is thus the point of this. Yeah. So, I go from, that was how I got to that particular school, was elementary education. But then once I got there, it's like, nope. So then I was kind of navigating my way through, like, some different paths, trying to see what fit for me. And, I took a lot of philosophy and sociology and psychology classes, trying to figure it out, and ended up with a dual major and dual minor. My majors were psychology and religious studies because I was interested in both of those. I didn't know what I'd do with either one of them, but I had interest, so therefore I was going that route. My minors were interpersonal relations and creative writing, because I loved writing. I knew that. I'm not really sure the interpersonal relations. I think I had classes that counted to it, and I had like 3 others that I would need that would also count for it, so I just went ahead and added it on, because yeah, that's useful. Okay. So that was what I did then. The next thing was, my sophomore year, I had this really awesome roommate, and we were really close, and I had this one night, I was just rambling, just on and on and on. She was just listening and letting me talk, and yes, she did sometimes do the same, but it was usually me talking, so it was kind of, this one night in particular, I was just rambling my way through some stuff, and it was what took me to the realization that, like, all these traumatic events that I'd had growing up all took place, like, around 7 or 8. And it's like, that was a big, important detail for these later years. Particularly this year, because I spent so much time talking my way through them again on this channel. But, you know, I don't remember why I went into that specific thing. Anyway, like, with her and our conversations, I got to a point where I kind of thought seminary could potentially be something I was supposed to do. And I looked at it for a little while, and the one that seemed like the most logical step was closest mainly to, you know, my family and where I was at that point in time with my school and all that stuff. And it was connected to the church that I was a member of at the time. So I started looking there, and for some reason one night I ended up looking into like the information about the school, and one of the things that I read, 11:11, talked about how you could get kicked out of school for dancing if it wasn't like a group dance at a wedding reception or something. If you tried to dance with, like, it didn't matter if it was a boyfriend or whatever, that was unacceptable for whatever reason. It's like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me. Mind you, one of the things that I did do in undergrad was participate in this club for swing dancing. So the Ball State Swing Society. And I loved it. Didn't really retain anything from it, but I enjoyed, like, a couple of the guys that led the groups, or led the classes, you know, would include me on, like, the going out to places. We get a group together. I got to go, even though I was brand new and didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. And you know, while we were there, they were really good leads and just kind of threw me around. It's like, I don't know what's happening, but it's awesome. So to see this thing that I could get potentially thrown out of school for something that I enjoyed doing, didn't fly. Wasn't going to do that. So I basically, because this one school was no longer an option, I just shelved the whole seminary thing completely. You know, and then ended up working in mental health for a while. And then I dated this guy for 4 years, and when we broke up, I felt like I wanted to fast for an open-ended amount of time. Didn't know how long. Just knew that I wanted to do it. It's like, I don't know why. It just felt like something I was supposed to do. So I did. And as I said, it was open-ended, so it ended up being for 15 days before I felt like I was being led to break the fast. And in that time, I spent a lot of time with my Bible, because that's what I did back in those days. And okay. I mentioned that I ramble a lot at the beginning of this do-over video. Alas, here I am, rambling again. But I know there's a point to it. And I will get there. I think. I hope. Might have to turn a light on here in a few minutes, because the sun's going down. So, yeah. So anyway, in that time, I started thinking that I wanted to do, like, marriage and family therapy, because that's something I could do with the psychology the degree that I had, and could navigate toward the spirituality side of things. So I particularly felt drawn to wanting to do marriage and family therapy with military families. So for me, I started on this thought process of, I feel like I need some kind of experience of the military life before anybody would be able to take me seriously in that kind of position. So I decided to join the military. You know, I was just gone through this big breakup, didn't have anything like that holding me back anymore. Funny thing is, I actually talked to my ex before we broke up, like several months, and mentioned that I was thinking about it, the military stuff, and he was like, well, how was it? He said it something to the effect of, I wouldn't go with you. It's like, you know, and I was pretty set on thinking that we were going to get married at some point, just because that was not ideal part of my process, but it was something that I had thought no less. So when it didn't happen, it was basically, you know, well, now what? Because the whole point of even getting involved in any kind of serious relationship was with the idea of eventually getting married, because that's what I felt I was supposed to do. That was what my family did. You know, they didn't even... Okay. My mom got married a month before she graduated high school. I don't know where my grandparents were on that end of things, but it was really early too. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm wanting to say my grandma was probably 19. Yeah, anyway. So, since the whole marriage thing still hadn't worked out, and that was something I had seen that was supposed to be a big deal and was largely important with whatever I did, and then that wasn't there anymore, you know, then, well, hey, let's just go a whole new path altogether, right? Go to the military. And there's nothing holding me back at that point in time. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I know these little hummingbirds light up, but it's like, it's got a little solar panel thing on the top of it. I usually don't think of it getting enough sun to actually light up, but here we are. That's kind of fun. Anyway, so I'm going to pause this and turn the light on before I get in the dark. Totally thought I was going to lose the whole video there again because I couldn't remember how I was supposed to get back into it. Anyway, yeah, so I went the military route because marriage and family therapy with military families seemed like I needed some military experience of my own to understand anything, because otherwise, what good is it if I don't understand actually being in it? So, the first thing I did was talk to a Navy recruiter, and I had this tattoo on the back of my neck that had these 3 little starbursts on it, and not like the candy, it was like the little liney thing. And one was above my collar, and they said that it was a problem because it was above my collar. So, you know, when my hair would be up, that would be a not good thing. So I was like, well, I paid to put it there, so I'm not going to just remove this one little starburst just so I can join the Navy. Sorry. You know, and I think it was funniest because the guy that was telling me this had these great big actual stars, like black stars, tattooed up his arms. It's like, you have all these stars on your arms and you're telling me that this one tiny little thing on the back of my neck is a problem. So, didn't go that route. Roundabout way, ended up with the National Guard. My dad had been in the National Guard, so it's just, okay, not a problem, whatever. You know, and I liked the idea of still being around family. In hindsight, I wish I would have gone active duty somewhere, whether it was Army or Air Force or whatever else. I didn't even look into the Air Force. That was, my brother had gone that route. So yeah, I looked into the Navy and then went Guard. one of the big motivating factors on that was I went in as a chaplain assistant because another thought was that I might want to consider Army chaplaincy, and it seemed like assisting the chaplain would be a good way of deciding if I wanted to be a chaplain. So, yeah. Then ended up in seminary. I've mentioned that on here before. And it's kind of funny because my time in seminary, my first semester, okay, I got married like wait. After my Army training further complicated me not really having a sense of who I was or what I was supposed to be doing with my life, I ended up, mind you, it was basically a delayed rebound after the big breakup of the relationship that I actually care about. Ended up jumping into this relationship and marrying this dude that I had no business being with. I kind of knew it. I've told you some of those stories on here too. Anyway, that was what got me. Okay, military confused me more than I was trying to focus back on this chaplaincy thing and see if that was the path I wanted to go. So there was a seminary that I found. This was back in 2012 that I was looking into it. And they had, of course, I like my dual programs, so there's two. So it felt like the right thing to do to pursue seminary with two focuses. So I went in for marriage and family therapy, as well as my Master's of Divinity. And then, because I got married and other things were involved, ended up dropping the marriage and family therapy to focus just on the divinity side of things because my ex took a job that was going to move us to another state, and I would have to transfer schools since I already have most of my stuff for this divinity degree, so I just focused all on that one. I was able to take one semester basically online, just emailing my instructors and whatnot, and I did the seminary thing. Started as a dual major because I went into the military wanting to go for marriage and family therapy with military families, ended up going for my Master's of Divinity degree and dropping the marriage and family therapy. And then, yeah. So anyway, these cards keep coming up, right? Or this one particular card, but the same message. And so this week, no, not this week, a couple weeks ago, I was cleaning some stuff and got a bunch more. Okay, there were more wedding pictures. How many fucking wedding pictures does somebody need? Because, oh my god, I should have burned them all by now, and I'm sure there will still be others pop up somewhere along the way. And I'm really tired of it. But it is fun to burn them. So, I had some pictures, and then a bunch of other stuff that I went through. As I was going through the boxes to find more stuff to burn, specifically with the intention of burning them, getting a collection, I found my library card. And it was like this little one for my keychain, or yeah, key ring, whatever. And it had my married name on it. It's like, ugh. Like that needs to go. And it was expired too. It's like, I'm pretty confident that I went and got that changed at some point when I got up here. But then now I'm and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking that maybe I just renewed my library card at the time because, because I think I was still, it was before the divorce was finalized that I last went to the library, so that's kind of sad. But that's why my name hadn't been changed on it. Because that was like one of the first things I did was how I get it off of everything. My passport still needs to be adjusted. Not that I'm planning on going overseas anytime soon, but the fact that I have one makes me want to have it updated with the correct information. Taz is going to talk now. You don't need to. That's okay. So I saw my library card, and it's like, well, this is like, what was it like? I wanted to say it was a good 3 years expired anyway, at least 2. But since it had the other name on it, it's like, I clearly have not been in a while if they still have my old name on file. And so that was something I thought I should do. So since I keep getting this information, or at least cards and nudges to go learn stuff, it's like, you know what I could do? I could go to the library. So I did. Stop. But I still, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. I feel like I'm supposed to be learning about something. Okay, so I'm working on that now, right? Getting to the library was helpful. It's like, maybe I'll find something. I actually went after a couple books that talked about... Stop! Talked about mysticism in the title or in the book information. I don't know why we're suddenly so fussy. He's been laying there for being good for a while. So, Taz, I'm trying to talk and you're trying to make me forget everything. Yeah. So I got, okay, the guidebook said that if you're open to the whatever, the universe will help send you in a direction. That was not at all what it said, but it's something to that effect. This is how my mind works. This is how I get on these little tangents. This is how I go places. Spinning my wheels. So I go to the library. The books that I was looking for, they did not have. It's at the other branch. But I started looking at other ones. And I found one that's The Lives of the Stoics. And, it's talking about Stoic philosophers and whatnot. Another one that I got was it's called The Book of Seances. And it talks about death, divination, and all these other things. And it's basically, right now, it's kind of talking about the author's path to learning there's something on the other side, more or less. I'm reading both at once because that's how I roll. And it was kind of funny because I actually got started on them because the company that I work for, that I do this respite care through with my niece, had said I had trainings coming up that I needed to get renewed on them. The annual trainings before, I wouldn't be able to work them anymore. So I cannot tell you how much I loathe these things, these stupid trainings, because it's basically the exact same kind of things that I had to do annually when I worked at the group home and in the mental health area for all that time, which was, I think it was 9 years, so just shy of a decade. So I've done these trainings, not these exact ones, but basically the same information over and over again. It's like I can half pay attention and be fine. So I was half paying attention and half reading. And, I started with the lives of the Stoics. It's like, this is, what is this? Honestly, when I first started reading it, it's like I felt like it was something that was going to make me feel dumb. And I was going to have a hard time understanding it. But it's like I was drawn to this book for a reason, so we're going to try. And I read the intro, and I read the first philosopher that it talked about, which was Zeno the Prophet. And it talks about him beginning Stoicism. And mind you, I have heard a lot more in recent years about Stoicism, or some of the ideas from it, but I don't really I don't think I knew it was actually a philosophy per se. I just heard the word a lot, and then it appeared in front of me, and it's like, maybe I should go this path. Okay, something to learn about, whatever, I'll follow it. So I read it, the first chapter on Zeno the Prophet, and it was interesting, but I didn't feel like I was getting it all. So I was like, this is going to be one of those books where I'm going to have to read like every chapter twice or something. And that kind of made me a little uncomfortable, sad. It made me sad to think about having to read things multiple times to understand it, right? So I just accepted that fate and was doing these trainings. Yes, I passed them all as I was supposed to, but it took some while. It took a while, but it took a while to get through them. It's just so if you accidentally close out of it, it doesn't save your progress, so you got to start all over. And I did that like on a couple different ones. It's like, no. Anyway, that's what I did. So, I read the first chapter and the intro, and then the next morning I decided to reread the first chapter. And yes, it made more sense. But as I continued on into the second chapter, which was, who did we talk about there? Oh, Cleanthes the Apostle. It made a lot more sense. It's like, well, maybe I don't have to reread it. I don't feel as dumb as I did yesterday. So, and I have that tendency to have a really hard time understanding what I'm trying to read, which I think is probably part of why the acquiring more knowledge thing was so intimidating, to make me not like that card when it kept popping up. Yeah. So, I guess that is something, especially, I can't say especially. I don't think I was really good with retaining information before my TBI, but after my TBI, it was not any better. It felt like I was constantly rereading stuff, and hold on. Okay, somebody made a noise across the pond. So, they're playing in their yard, so that might happen more. Hopefully. Go away! Hey! Taz, stop! Okay, so anyway. I've just always had that difficulty comprehending and retaining. And honestly, for a lot of years, I just thought I was stupid. And that's unfortunate. Loosely. School used to bother me because, okay, like at high school. Ziva. High school used to bother me because, it's like, I would be doing my homework and it's like, I know this stuff or should be able to know this stuff. Why do I struggle with it every single time? And then I would start every school year. Okay, this year's going to be different. This is going to be the year I'm going to focus on my, my schooling and do better, get better grades, right? And then, like, for whatever reason, it was never able to follow through with that, and it always dropped off. And I thought it was, a because I'm stupid kind of a thing. And anytime I used to get really upset with anything, there are people out there that cut themselves. I did not do that because that would be too visible. My thing was I would literally beat myself in the head with a hairbrush anytime I got mad at myself for anything. And it didn't help. But it was what I did. So I will own that. Anyway, like, I was always so frustrated with school. It's like, I feel like I should know this stuff, and I feel like sometimes when I study, I do well and I get it. And then others, it's just, I can't do this. Why can't I focus? Why is this such a problem? In hindsight, I think it's that whole empath thing. And I think I was just picking up everybody else's energies to the point that I couldn't concentrate on what I was supposed to. But I didn't know that was something that happened, so I didn't know it was something I should look out for. So I just did it and was incredibly frustrated and incredibly suicidal for most of those years, right? So kind of have a love-hate relationship with learning, but not because I am incapable. I know that I am capable. It's kind of funny because my TBI served as a reset for me because it forced me to realize that if I was going to do it worthwhile at all in seminary, I was going to have to start speaking up and asking questions because I was not getting anything after that TBI. Like, everything was a struggle, but things had been a struggle before and I knew that, but I didn't have a reason to attribute it to until seminary and the TBI. So that was a reset. Anyway, still kind of something that I think I've been processing through recently, and especially since I've been getting so many nudges to study something, whatever it is. Yeah. So for now, it's Stoicism. Anyway, the other day, how did that even come up? Oh, the third chapter, is Aristo the Challenger. And so he's the third guy in the Stoicism movement, and he studied under the other two, and his whole thing was just challenging. He liked to argue, because we need those types, right? So this week, when I got to this chapter, it's like I found myself kind of going back into a bunch of bad habits, like the stress eating was a big one, and just being snippy in general, and making excuses for not skating and all this kind of crap. And skating has been a big outlet, and as I've said many times, I have never regretted a skate that I've gone on. Like, even when I haven't wanted to go and I made myself go, I've never regretted it. So, like, it had been a week. I skated today, but before that it was a week, so it was last Saturday that I last skated. And I was like, what the heck is my deal, right? And then I started thinking about it, and I started writing, or journaling, my Twin Flame book, about how I didn't really know where this stuff was coming from or why it was coming up all at once. And then I looked into this chapter again, And I think that it kind of brought me some clarity. And I think one of my biggest blocks to learning has always been the struggle with, okay, like I didn't know who I was, so how would I have any kind of smart insight to back myself up or to argue my point if I didn't know who I was? It was a big thing, and then so I felt like anything I took on at that point, in school or whatever, I just felt stupid because I didn't feel like I would be able to re-explain myself on any of the things, whatever, and I think that's part of the purpose of me doing this whole YouTube thing, this vlog, is to kind of navigate through some of these things. And I've done a lot of healing work on here to get stuff out of my system. That's the biggest point. So when I actually, one of the other things that I did after I read this chapter was, I was thinking, actually I think it might have been before that chapter, I was thinking that I was really enjoying what I was reading, and maybe I should reconsider some of the books that I've been driving around in my car for like 4 months now. That, I thinned out my book collection. I have a ton. And I've gotten rid of several already, but I have 3 boxes in my car for half-price books that I just haven't made it over there for yet. I knew there was this one book that it was something with ethics. It's just called Ethics, but I think it's for like pastoral type. I got it in seminary. It's something to do with like religious studies and being an active pastoral type in a community, and ethics with that. I don't remember which class it was for. It might be more like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna keep on that path because I could just talk myself in circles like a lot, and all I would have to do is go look at the book and see what it is. Because what I'm explaining of it doesn't really feel right, but I remember when I was reading it, I was like, this is really interesting, and I was like highlighting the crap out of everything. And yeah, so I knew I wanted to pull this book out of my car. Mainly because I was pretty sure it was marked up enough that nobody would want it anyway. Then it's like, I should probably keep that. I got started looking at the books in my car, and next thing I know, I have a box of books to bring back in the house. And, I'm questioning like all these books that I had put out there, and it's like, okay, so what was my reason for putting them out there? Is this actually something I don't believe in, or is this just something that I don't want to give the space to studying more and taking the chance that it'll change my opinion back or whatever? I don't know. That's where it was. Anyway, I was going through these books. This is actually when I realized that I had been triggered by something. So I'm sitting in the back of the Escape and going through all these books and just throwing them in a box that I had other books that had been in that I did put in the car, like geckos and lizard stuff, terrarium design, all this stuff, things that I'm getting out of the reptile things. I don't care about that stuff anymore. So those are free to go. Oh, the motorcycle books that I barely ever touched, but my ex got me into motorcycles. The one that I liked and that took that breakup really hard, before my rebound into a toxic marriage. Yeah, I have no need for those. I did think about getting a motorcycle a while back, and then it was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. I did take a motorcycle safety course like I don't know, 15 years ago, because I was planning on it at one point in time. Yeah, that's over. Anyway, so those I didn't need, so those went into the car. But I pulled like a whole box, or 2 whole boxes out. I mean, not, there's 2 totes that I just happened to, since I was filling stuff back up, I ended up with a bunch. Anyway, there were 2 totes, ended up out there with me, and they weren't completely full, but they were pretty full. And I brought them back in the house, and my aunt came over in that time frame, and that's kind of what made me realize that I was triggered and not acting entirely coherently, or didn't know exactly where some of it was coming from. She came over to throw something in our trash because her trash had went the day before, and it was a bunch of expired yogurt, so she wanted to get rid of it, and ours was coming the next day, so she brought it over to us, and our trash cans. And then she saw that I was out there, and she came over and started talking to me. And the next thing I know, I'm on this like tangent and being all pissed at religion again. And when, I think it might have been that night when I realized that I think the biggest part of my issue, or my being triggered, had come up because I feel like one of those things that I am passionate about is helping people in the spirituality realm of things, but not feeling like I'm going to be adequately prepared for it, aside from being extremely pissed at religion and knowing that religion and religious people will be, they're not gonna like me, basically. And that's one of those things that, because it has always meant so much for me to be liked, that has something that's been very intimidating throughout my lifetime, and I feel like I'm getting to the point where it's less so, but at the same time, this other thing, this Stoicism book, bringing up this guy who was specifically third in line in this school of thought, and the big focus was, he's the challenger, because he came in to stir shit up, and realizing that I'm going to have to be able to know what I believe inside and out to the point where that doesn't faze me. And I think that's why like the stuff with my dad triggers me so much, when that's come up. And it's something, the universe is preparing me for this path that I'm on, and this is why I have not been able to see the big picture at any point yet, because I have to start trusting myself and moving with what I know. And a lot of these cards from this deck that I pull are very focused on believe what you feel and what you know more than, or what you believe more than what you see. It's like that, yeah, that's kind of a big thing, isn't it? Actually, I have this thing that I might read depending on, oh, yeah. So, let's see where I'm at. Oh, okay, I'm down to 15%, so I might have to speed this up and wrap it up. If I hadn't wasted 15-20% of my battery charge just staring at my camera again, like I've always done in the past. Well, except for that time where I actually got decent at enjoying to do them. Anyway, yeah. So it's just confronting, okay, there's this new school of thought back in the BC. It's a long, long time ago, right? So I think the first chapter talked about Zeno the prophet, was talking about something in 333 BC, which I think that might have been when he lost everything and ended up finding its way into philosophy. Won't swear to that, but I remember 333 was mentioned in the book and stood out because I like repeating numbers. And I've seen several of them while I've been doing this today. So, the Challenger bit stirred me up a lot because that has been one of those underlying anxieties that I have dealt with my entire life, and mainly because I spent so much of my life thinking that I was stupid and incapable of maintaining a thought, I think. But the biggest thing was that I didn't know myself and who I was and what I believed to begin with, so I had to go on this big roundabout path to narrow it down. And this, as I have been on this healing journey in this past year and a half or whatever now, I'm realizing that the universe is very much moving me to what I'm supposed to be doing, and even that I have always known, I had that knowing when I was in high school that 40 was when things were going to start coming together for me and start making sense. Well, now I'm at 41, we're still on that path, and we're still doing the things that are leading me to finding clarity and learning to trust myself more and more, but then also having these things that I've known are going to be potential things that I encounter on this journey. It just stirs up those things of where I felt like a failure in the past and how am I going to do it now? And of course, I'm not going I keep getting the messages more than any other that I am protected and I am safe. And I mentioned at some point, I'm pretty sure, because it's been such a big deal, that concert I went to in the fall by myself, I went and had to remind myself over and over on the way there that I am safe, I am protected, I am where I'm supposed to be, this is all going to be fine. Because that's not something I've ever had in my life, that feeling of safety and sense of being okay. That's not how my family does now. I think I mentioned not too long ago on the last videos that I did, the cage, that little bit where I think it was Chloe Taylor talked about hearing someone who said, if you are surrounded by people who make you afraid to do things, that's not a support system, that's a cage. It's like, oh, that's so true. And that's been my life, so now I'm trying to figure out how to undo that, right? And that is not easy. Not easy at all. So, yeah. I'll go ahead and read this thing. I wrote this quote down earlier. It's kind of a long one. The chapter that I read today was Chrysippus the Fighter. And It's in countering the whole challenger bit. Anyway, it says, we can picture Chrysippus, the competitor, the racer, wanting desperately to win. He studied the arguments of rival schools, even taking classes in the Platonist school so that he could identify weak points in their arguments. He studied the weaknesses of his own arguments to see where Stoicism had to improve. There's sometimes no better way to strengthen your defense than to learn your opponent's offense, and this is precisely what a good philosopher does. Today we call this steel manning. You don't need to cheat by assuming the worst about the ideas you're arguing against. Instead, you can engage them seriously and earnestly, winning by merit, not mischaracterization. And as a fighter, Chrysippus enjoyed the challenge. So I was kind of thinking along that line, like if I were to take that approach, I don't know that oh my god, this takes me back into the sense of overwhelm and what the hell am I getting myself into on this path that I'm on. And funny again, because I remember in high school always having that sense that I'm supposed to be a leader of some sort. I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know of what. Maybe just a thought. That's perfectly acceptable. I like that path. I don't know what the universe has in mind for me. But I do know that I'm on a path that is very challenging and forcing me to step into this higher state of being, frame of consciousness. I know I heard it. She heard a boom. She doesn't like fireworks or whatever that was, so yeah, but I know, and of course I keep getting messages on this end too, where the universe isn't going to send me out there unprepared. And that is why everything in my life has served a purpose, even when it hasn't made sense before. And now it makes more sense because now I can look at it. Okay, like, I've talked a few times, I think, about how there were these moments when I was in high school where it almost seemed like somebody was peeking through, showing me that there's this veil that, I was causing me to not know anything, but there was something more there. I just had to choose to see it or whatever. And I've wondered if part of that was, this is where I sound crazy, sure, where, like, I've been remembering these things as, okay, when I've been remembering them, it's actually looking through the veil into this past existence. And when I saw that, there's something light over there on the other side of it, and I kept getting these nudges, keep going, and it's like they were always trying to show me that there was more going on than I was able to be aware of. And now I'm wondering if it's if that back then was me now looking into the past and remembering these experiences and changing my perspective of them. Because, even the biggest one on that end was being bullied and, walking over to my locker when I think there's 5 or 6 guys were there mocking me and hovering around my locker, just being dicks. And at one point it was like I was on a stage. Hey, that's enough. felt like there was this light shining at me, and like I was on the stage, and I was just, Zeba, enough. Yeah, I don't know. Neighbors in their trash can. Anyway, so I had to come in the house. Nobody's home. Yeah, but it was just like, it felt like at the time, like I was on the stage kind of looking out and seeing the scene, that I was living it differently than I was experiencing it in my mind. And I'm kind of wondering if it's like this shifting around the veil kind of a thing. And I don't even know how to explain that any further. One day I'm pretty sure I'm going to be writing about it. But yeah. And I'll probably talk about it many more times as I'm trying to discover what I even am talking about. You know, because that's, I think, the washer got a tilt. Hold on. Okay. So that, I am washing dog beds and bird cage covers, just blankets, and it was heavy and threw the washer off. So then it was just screaming at me. So yeah. But anyway, I think that's the purpose of this whole speaking my truth thing that I've supposed to been doing forever. Because this is how I navigate this journey, and I have to talk through it to understand it, much like I did with my roommate back in undergrad, with realizing everything seemed to come back to when I was 7 or 8 years old, you know, and all these big traumatic events that happened back then. But it's like I have to talk my way through it to understand it. And that's kind of a pain in the butt. You know, and I think that kind of complicates things on the journey of making sense, finding clarity, not being afraid to talk about whatever it is that I'm learning, even though I'm sometimes afraid to talk about what I'm learning because I haven't learned it all yet, and I don't know all the answers, and I don't know if I'm understanding it right, but I have to navigate my way through it by speaking it out into the world, whether anybody's watching this or not. That's really not the point. The point right now is that I am fully engaged on this learning process at present and trying to navigate my way through it. And I don't know if I've talked about this on here. I'm pretty sure I have to some degree. I just don't know to what extent. But like, okay, I think one of the most important things that we are here to do is to put our energy, fully invest our energy into something that we believe in or love to do, because us putting our genuine, authentic self out into the world helps to shift things. You know, okay, it goes back to the keys and codes things that the Danielle on the Harmonious Hearts page talked about. She said that, you know, she does like twin flame stuff, but she was talking about how like we all have these different keys and codes, and you know, I don't remember what all she said, but my understanding of it was the more we put of our own authentic energy out into the world, you know, that like opens things up for others to be able to do the same, and changes it provides the opportunity for people to change and adjust because, okay, like, yeah, I've always been into, I'm somebody that can listen to songs over and over and over again. And I might listen to the same song 50 times in a row, literally in a row. I do that. And not get anything but just the feeling of the song. But then that 51st time, then it's like, oh shit, suddenly it stirs up something else that makes me remember all this other stuff or connect to these other things in my life. And yeah. So I think the point of my twin flame journey on that end, I've said before, it's somebody in music, and the point of that was because, it might be that 51st time hearing a specific song, and I'm not saying his song specifically. Yes, I've listened to some of his songs, probably more than that, but other songs that I've listened to over the years growing up or whatever that have always meant something to me. It's like they're pulling me to what I'm supposed to be doing, where I'm supposed to be at. The point of the twin flame journey for me was, it was something like, I got a whole lot of crab placements, Cancer placements in my chart. And a lot of them, my sun, moon, Mercury, and Mars are all in Cancer in the 12th house, and then my Cancer rising sign is in the 1st house. So there's 4 placements in the 12th house, and the 12th house talks about the subconscious. And, I talked to the girl I got most of my piercings, not all of them, but most of them at. And she said, when this came up, she said it seems that people with a lot of 12th house placements, holy crap, I can speak, seem like they're frequently late bloomers because there's so much they have to navigate through in those subconscious, levels. And then adding to the fact that mine are in Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, which, that's all about the subconscious too. And okay, it makes me think of this song by Sister Hazel, Everything Else Disappears. One of the lines in it says, we talked for hours about the sun and the moon, how he chases her around and around just trying to light up her face. And it's like, I kind of I get that sense that song feels like a big connecting point with the twin flame thing, because there's like all this heavy stuff in the unknown that I'm trying to figure my way through, and I don't know, but after my divorce, I was in a very dark place and kind of in crab mode with put me in my shell, leave me the hell alone. And it took this journey to pull me out of that. And it's only been able to do so because, okay, like, I only started this channel for my healing journey in the first place because I had this thought come up. Oh shit, my phone's gonna die soon. Hold on. Forgot my phone was also in the process of dying. Had to grab the phone charger because it was at 5%. So the whole thing is basically the twin flame path stirred me to start doing this and this healing work because my dogs are just staring at me like I'm nuts. Because, the big thing at that time was, this is somebody that had to have some kind of, he had to be in some kind of spotlight because how else would I find him? But then I had to start doing this because how else is he ever going to find me if I didn't start, and then so that it's been this big healing thing for me to do this. Yeah. And, because like that whole 12th house stuff and all my 12th house placements and being in Cancer to make it that much deeper, it's like it's pulling me out of everything I've done as I've done it before, because that's not who I am anymore, and that's not who I'm meant to be, and it was never who I was meant to be, but I had to go through all this other crap to figure out where I was going, how I'm going to get there. 111, I don't know. Yeah, but the biggest thing at the end of the day is putting my own authentic energy out there, because eventually somebody's going to come up whenever anybody gets interested in these. And it'd probably help if I tried to promote my stuff a little bit more, but right now I don't. I figure the universe will put it in front of whoever it's meant to be in front of when it needs to be there, or when it's meant to be there. And yeah. In the meantime, I'm just trying to figure this shit out, and spending half the time taking an hour or better to start talking to the camera, because that's still not something that I'm really strong with, because it's still uncomfortable. Especially the fact that I haven't done... Okay, I was doing these really regularly there for a while, and, like daily, and then multiple times daily, and then it's like I feel like that phase is over, and that took me to the phase of taking a break, and I think the date on the last actual video I did was July 16th, and today is August 3rd. And I did one other little short video, just reading something that I'd written recently, because it felt like something I should do. Yeah, that's something I wrote, but also made me realize that I sometimes don't like reading the things that I wrote when I don't know who I'm reading them to or where they're going. But again, that's something that I have to work on and navigate through, just because it's part of my journey. And anyway, I think this is more than long enough. I figured it was going to be short today. Yeah, sorry, I don't do short. Just because I don't know. I just thought it was going to be short today because I didn't really have a lot to talk about, I didn't think. But now I'm talk therapizing again and learning stuff about myself some more, and making more connections, which is thus the point of this whole journey to begin with. And I am pretty sure that I stayed remotely close to the point when I started, which was getting to that whole gaining knowledge thing, and the the challenger, being a big trigger on some of the bad habits I've shifted back into this past week, and now I'm working on getting back out of those again. It's just part of the process. What is it? 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Yeah, anyway. I'm going to end it there. And go, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything what I'm doing. I'll probably read some more. Yeah. So, as always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.